Pretty much looks like a blackout boot.
And I think this is going to be a massive seller. I think she's a big fan of the Phantom. She's worn those for a long time. I would potentially get these and cut the collar off them.
So the best thing about the Strike ones is that it's just one base coat.
£105 difference in price. Hi guys, Ian and Matt from footballboots.co.uk, and today we're going to talk about the Hypervenom range and we're going to work out which Hypervenom is for you. Obviously Nike have just released their Strike Night Hypervenom, so that means there's another colorway. So there's like TechRob, Strike Night, Launch Radiation Flare, Women's. There's a whole lot of boots that we're going to look at in this video and tell you kind of the Fade, the Fatale, the Felon, the Lows, the DFs, which ones are going to suit you. So stay tuned because we're going to tell you quite a big bargain in the Hypervenom market, but also a pair of boots that are ridiculously overpriced. We'll get to that in the video. We're going to start off with the cheaper versions and we're going to go all the way through to the high-end ones, especially with all these extra colorways to show you. So a lot of stuff to look at, even the leather ones. We want to start talking about the Fade, which is the lowest version of the Hypervenom. So who does that really suit, the Fade?
So the Fade is definitely suited to kind of the club amateur players. You don't want to spend the really high expensive price tags of the Phantom boots, who aren't playing at the highest level, but they are obviously a very good option for those club kind of amateur players. They don't come with a Nike skin upper, they obviously come in this new colourway, which look very slick because it pretty much looks like a blackout boot with a little bit of silver and red, so you can't really see that half and half, which might not suit some club and amateur players who don't want to look that flash. They want to get a nice pair of cheap boots and get the job done. That's exactly what these offer.
Yeah, very nice indeed. This is the sole plate on these, which is a little bit different than the other ones, but it still has that kind of Hypervenom. Like all the Hypervenoms have this type of sole. The Hyper Reactive is on the high-end one, but these are still pretty decent. There's obviously a variety of colorways. Let's just look at the Radiation Flare version of the Fade. Pretty much the same. Only thing you notice really differently is on the back. This heel section doesn't have the striped lines that you see on some of the high-end
Exactly
ones.
right. Obviously, it's not the best colourway out there. These obviously cost £45, so they are pretty good value for money. It is obviously a Nike boot and their latest model, so for £45, I don't think they're too bad, and they'll be quite comfortable and pretty durable.
So we'll move on and let's take a look at the Felon, which is kind of the next step up in these. Start off with the Radiation Flare this time around. So here is the Felon in the Radiation Flare. What are the differences between this and the Fade? Well,
the absolute biggest difference, because there isn't much differences compared to both boots, but the absolute biggest one, which is actually an important one, is it comes with a Nike skin upper. Now obviously Nike do love their Nike skin upper. I like it, you like it, I think a lot of footballers do like it, and it's just a little layer over the top of that mesh upper, which just adds a little bit more grip. I think that's what it really comes down to, is grip on the ball, and that is exactly what Nike skin offers.
Now the difference between the Nike skin on these and some of the higher end ones is just a little bit thicker.
It's a little bit thicker. Obviously on those top end boots, the Nike skin is incredibly thin. Obviously it's probably a little bit more difficult to get onto the boot, and that's why it's a little bit more expensive, and this is why this one's a little bit thicker. A bit easier to put onto the boot. It's still going to be grippy though, just the upper itself might just feel a little bit thicker.
I mean, to a lot of you these are going to look very similar to the low version that you'll see the pros wearing. So there's no like dynamic fit collar version of the Felon. That's saved for the Fatale and then the high-end version as well, but otherwise there's not massive differences. Let's just go through and have a quick look at the Strike Night ones. They look pretty decent.
They're so smart. I think all black boots really do tick a lot of boxes for a lot of players. It doesn't really matter who you are, what type of player you are. A blackout boot, or mostly blackout, is always going to be a fan favourite, and I think with those little nice kind of silvery swooshes, I think they are very slick looking boots.
And the nice thing with the silver stuff is that is reflective as well, so that will come up quite sharp with a flash of a photo or under the floodlights of a pitch or something like that. But I mean, like if you don't have a massive budget, these are a really great option.
Well, they are a great option because obviously we just saw the Fade at £45, and Nike skin added layer on this is going to make them £60. So it's about a £15 price difference. But for me personally, if I'm going to get a scaled down boot, definitely pay the £15 more because you are going to feel the difference, especially with grip.
Yeah, you definitely will find the difference. Like as you say, grip, this sole plate is just a slightly different, little enhancement, little tweak here and there, and the combination of that and the upper is a big deal. So the next ones we're going to look at are the Fatale. And previously you used to get a low Fatale.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist anymore.
Doesn't exist anymore. Nike really want to stick with this dynamic fit collar. They put that on all their kind of scaled down boots this time because, to be fair, there are going to be a lot of players out there, if they're adults or juniors, who want the same looking boots as their top elite level pros by Nike, but they don't want to spend those high price tags. So this is exactly what it offers. You get a scaled down boot but with the collar. So to be fair, there's not a lot of people who can actually tell the difference. On feet, if you're maybe 5-10 meters away, you probably aren't going to be able to tell the difference if they are scaled down or elite level, which is obviously the best thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, and one of the really nice things with this is it still has a fly knit collar.
Yeah.
It's not fly knit in the whole boot. There's kind of the mesh and then the Nike skin on top of that. But it's a really nice boot. As you say, people aren't really going to notice unless they get really that close to be able to tell, and you won't necessarily notice when you're playing. It's a good option if you're kind of perhaps a teenager who's got adult-sized feet, but you can't wear like the kids' Phantoms, and you don't have the cash to spend on the high-end ones. These are a really great option if you're looking for a sock boot. It is a little bit of a shame that you can't get like this kind of upper and the fly knit, but without the sock part. That's not something they've made available, but you could maybe snip it off if you wanted to.
You can cut it off if you want to. I mean, so when you're talking about these kind of scaled down boots with the collar, it is all about the price tag. That's what it is. You lose kind of the fly wire and the fly knit materials, but they are only £135. I know that's still a fair amount of money, but compared to the very elite level ones like the Phantoms, it's about £100 cheaper. So to be fair, it is a good deal compared to those elite ones.
Yeah, it is a great deal indeed. So let's move on and look at some of those elite ones, and we're gonna, or let me just mention first off that these are the first ones that you can get in the women's colorway. So there is a women's Fatale, which is, I think is great. Like obviously kind of younger girls playing, perhaps want to have like a cheaper boot, don't want to have to go all the way to the top. Also, like if you like this colorway, it's just a sizing difference. You can fit these if you're a male player and you wanted to wear them, you can wear these. They're just a sizing difference. I think it's a size and a half difference. So if you have got smaller kind of junior feet, then there's a good chance that they will fit you. They don't go up to the large sizes that you get in the men's, but these can fit you. So if you do like this colorway, which is one of the nicer ones we've seen. So let's go indoor and let's talk about the Proximos. So these are a really nice looking boot, that's why.
No doubt about it, these are so sharp. If I played indoor football myself, these are without doubt the boot I'll go for. This colourway, I'm not sure whether I'll go for the collared one or the low one, but I think these are incredibly good looking.
Yeah, we'll move on and look at the Hypervenom X Finale in a second. I would potentially get these and cut the collar off them because I think they are great, but I don't know if I necessarily want to go down to the Finale because the upper and the construction is slightly different.
They've got a little bit of neoprene going on.
Yeah, the neoprene and yeah. So, but yeah, these are a stunning boot. Obviously, you can get the radiation flare of these as well. There's that reflective stuff that we were talking about. So under the flash, you can see that with these, and it's like that on the outdoor ones as well, which is interesting. This is the indoor version. One of the things they've now put the Nike Zoom in.
Nike Zoom, so if you think about Adidas's boost technology, this is Nike's equivalent, but Zoom has actually been around for a seriously long time. I'm talking maybe more than a decade it's been around. It wasn't on some football boots in the last kind of 10 years, but I remember myself, the really old school tonal 90s, like the Air Zoom 1s, they had it obviously big called Zoom. It's just in that heel, so on the boost for Adidas, it's all across that sole plate, but it's just that little pocket on the heel, which just gives you a nice underfoot cushioning.
So it's a really nice touch to see that in those. We were talking about the Finales, so let's have a quick look at those. They haven't brought these out as far as we've seen in the Strike Night pack yet, but you can get them in the radiation flare, and there's that neoprene that you were talking about.
Exactly right, so it's a little bit different. So Blake actually just recently purchased the previous generation, so the Phantom, the Hypervenom, the twos. Yeah. And they've got a mesh tongue, so it wasn't even neoprene. So that was a mesh tongue which was kind of loose, but this time they've gone for something a little bit similar on the Mercurial X Finales with that neoprene material, and it's going to be very sock-like. There's no doubt about it. Yeah,
it's going to be nice. It's going to be nice to wear. The Nike Zoom, interestingly, is on this scaled down one as well, which is quite a nice touch to find that. So these are a really good kind of value for money offering if you're looking for an indoor. So let's move away from the indoor stuff again, and we're going to move into this kind of high-end main stuff now. So this is like your finish, I suppose.
So this is my finish, exactly. So I'm still running the finish now, but I think on the boot market of right now, the newest releases, these are the best boot on the market. I really do believe that. I think they're better than the DF version. I think they just give you a little bit more support and stability around the heel, because sometimes the flying construction of the dynamic collar can just make it a little bit soft to get some rollover. So I really do think these are some of the best boots on the market, and it's no surprise that so many pros are actually wearing them right now.
And I think this is going to be a massive seller. I think if you do like these, you should probably go and buy them now. Don't wait for them to go on sale, because I do think these will probably sell out. They are that stunning a colorway, and they are going to be very popular with people. And I know a lot of people are already kind of really appreciating the Hypervenom 3 lows, and that's going to continue with this release. There is the reflectiveness on the swoosh on these as well. Really, really crisp release. Yep. So there's a few options if you do want these kind of finished style. You've got the Radiation Flare original release, which I'll just bring up. And you can also then, this is the first time we're going to start talking about TechRob with the Hypervenoms.
Yeah, exactly right. So the TechRob has been kind of a massive thing for Nike. It hasn't been the biggest seller, but they have kept coming up with some new colorways for them. But there is a slight difference this time around. So the first time they bought their TechRob Hypervenoms, it was that same normal standard synthetic and then the leather on top.
Yes.
So that's what they did. Second time around, they changed that and made it entirely leather. So they took away the standard synthetics and put K-leather on top. And this time they kind of mixed it together a little bit.
Yeah. So it's a shame because with the TechRob 2.0, Nike really kind of hit the nail on the head with a leather boot. You want leather that's touching your foot and leather that's touching the ball.
Yeah.
With these, unfortunately, they've got the Flyknit underneath again, and then it's just a layer of the leather on top, and that's only in this kind of one side of the forefoot as well. So in that kind of this half of the boot, which is where you're striking the ball, which I suppose is you're getting halfway there, is leather, but the other half isn't. It's just the Flyknit exposed, and that's it.
So you're going to pay about £10 increase in price for the TechRob, which isn't the biggest difference. I mean, they're obviously adding a layer of K leather, which is a nice thing. So they're actually using more material. So you can say that the £10 is for more material.
Yeah, I think even these ones potentially might be the Allegri leather that they've gone and used that. So they are using that premium kind of leather with it, but it's just a shame it's not the whole boot and it's not underneath as well. So you've got the Nike skin on the other side, which is exposed to the ball. So the other boots that you can get in the finish is also the women's. So you've got the women's, which looks very nice. Looks a lot like the Fatale. Obviously, you've lost the collar on there again.
Yeah.
These ones, interestingly, one of the best players in the world women's game is Alex Morgan, and she took a while to switch over to these, perhaps due to her move to Lyon. But she's finally in the Phantoms for Nike, and she does prefer the low version. Here she is giving them a cuddle. She's a big fan of the Phantoms. She's worn those for a long time, but she was really sticking with the Spark Brilliance when she started her career in Lyon, but she's moved on and she's got these now. Obviously there's these ones which were the Strike Night ones, and you can see a lot of support for these, and perhaps players will be wearing them because they're in the Strike Night event, so perhaps you will see that obviously a few players actually giving on pitch support to these, which would be nice. Let's move on to the DF version, and we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different versions. Obviously you've got the radiation flare ones that came out. Everybody's seen those, we've all talked about those, you've seen our reviews, so we won't talk about those too much. The Strike Night ones, what do you think of the Strike Night version?
Well, I mean, as you said earlier, it's all about getting your hands on these right now. So these are no doubt the best colourway of the Hypervenom so far, and they're probably going to be the best Hypervenoms that I can imagine from maybe the whole generation. They're all black, a little bit of silver, a little bit of red. I can't imagine it's going to be a nicer colourway.
We know what Nike have been doing with their colourways, the way they've been combining the colours. We've also seen some of the colours that are coming up for the Hypervenom in the future. Can't talk about them now, but we can say that these are probably stand out, the best ones you're going to see.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so the radiation flare wasn't the best colourway, the green and red, but what it comes down to is the actual design of the Hypervenom 3 with the off-centre half and half. It's not going to be for everyone, it's not going to be for me. So the best thing about these Strike Night ones is that it's just one base coat. It's just that solid black all over. So really, if you want to get the Hypervenoms, if it's in a DF or if it's in a low or scaled down, then get this colourway because it's probably not going to be an as nice one for a very long time.
Yes. Let's just have a quick look at the TechRob ones, and obviously they have got that same issue with the leather that we were talking about. We're not going to kind of mull on these too much. You've already seen the low version, so we don't need to say anything else. But this is obviously what they look like. If you're interested in them, then you can get those. We've still got one thing to tell you about the Hypervenom range, which is really kind of interesting. Before that, just to say that you can get the kids version of the radiation flare. I haven't seen a kids version of the Strike Night yet, which is a real shame, because if you're a kid and you wanted your Hypervenom, so it'd definitely be a good pair of boots to go for as well. Although perhaps kids do prefer perhaps the bright colours a little bit more than some of your more seasoned professionals. Now let's talk something about the anti-clog. This is the one thing I wanted to mention. So anti-clog traction is the one kind of big technology for soft ground pitches, and it's a great thing that it's available for the Hypervenoms. But interestingly, when the finish came out, they were £230 for the anti-clog version, which is quite expensive for a low cut boot. That was the Hypervenom finish before they kind of got discontinued and we went to the low. So if I just bring up a picture of the low versions here, where are we? So this is the low version. Let me grab the mid-G anti-clogs. So the difference that we're talking about isn't very significant when we come to looking at the anti-clog. The sole plate of the finish is the same sole plate as you see here on the Magistas. They always use the same sole plate on the anti-clogs because of the way that it works. They can't have the grooves and any of those extra things. So it's quite different than the sole plate that you're finding on the regular Phantom. These finish are only £200, and I say only, that's still quite a lot of money for a pair of boots. Excuse me, but they're only £200. If you look at the price of the collared version, so let me just bring those up, and maybe you can just spot the difference with me. What's the difference between these in the anti-clog and the low version in the anti-clog?
The only difference you will find is a lack of a dynamic collar. That is the one single difference, and it's not even a better thing. But that is the one difference, and it's not even better.
Okay, and then you guys just quickly have a guess. How much do you think the difference in price is between the one with the collar and the one without the collar? £105. £105 difference in price.
It's not fair. I mean, it's not right. I mean, even with the anti-clog, I mean, they're a lot of money, and obviously the DF version are so expensive, but it doesn't really make that much difference in itself to sole play. I mean, if you're going to slip over on a football pitch, it doesn't really matter if you've got an SG pair or an anti-clog. So that in itself isn't the biggest difference. But just because it's a DF version and it's got the collar, does not justify the incredibly amount of money that you have to pay for it.
So there's something going wrong with the pricing of the Hypervenoms. It's a great thing that Nike have priced the low version at that 200 point.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's really good, especially because they were 230 with the finish in the generation before. So like, jump on those. If you wanted the anti-clog, they're probably my recommendation. In the past I've been going, if you want anti-clog, get the Tiempos, they're quite cheap. Definitely jump on the low version of the Phantoms, but whatever you do, please do not buy these boots at £305. It's madness. I can't see that many pairs selling. They did struggle to sell the original launch pack of the anti-clogs when they came out, and with the radiation flare colorway as well, it might also be a little bit tricky. Go ahead and get something else, but please don't get those. Maybe go get those Finish. Do you think you'd take a pair for the season, maybe not in the radiation flare colorway though?
No, 100% the stripe nut pair. I think they're a lovely looking boot. They're a great model as well. Me personally, I'd stay away from the dime fit collar from Nike. I don't think it really does anything. There's no real performance benefits. I think they look a little bit more bulky on feet, especially on the things like the Obras. I think they're very bulky. Stay low cut, and if you get the anti-clogs, go for the low cut Phantom. Don't even think about paying the £305 price tag.
Alright guys, well thanks for watching my video on the Hypervenom range. If you're interested in us doing videos on other ranges, then we'll try and do that perhaps when some other kind of new releases come out around the Tiempos or the Magistas, especially when we're hearing there's a new upper potentially on the Magista coming, so maybe we'll look at that range next. Also we've got the Mercurials, but let us know in the comments below, what boot would you wear out of this pack, or not pack, but range, or what boot would you get out of this entire collection? Are you a Fade, a Phelon, or anything else? I think we're both agreed that we are the low. As I said, leave a comment below. Go enjoy football.